The heroes are standing in front of us, and in the girl's head there were thoughts that she immediately recognized him, this blue-eyed, handsome man with dark hair. Before her is her idol, who comes in her dreams. Her kitten, her Kylo, she finally met him. But then there was a deafening sound, and the man's head rarely twitched. What just happened? The girl was in severe shock. Why did she slap her precious kitten Kylo? Why did her hand move on its own? The girl's hand flew into the air again, and again and again. The man received 3 slaps in a row, and the girl herself did not understand why she was beating so much. One day she saw a similar question on social media. What would you do first if you were in a novel with your favorite character? She didn't understand why she should even think about this, but she immediately decided to write an answer first. She would lock him in her room, then feed him goodies. She would pat him on the head and let him rest and feed him everything he wanted. She would make sure that he had nothing to worry about, would be worried, and, of course, would constantly hug. However, why did she hit her beloved? Is this right? The girl mentally screamed. Kylo grabbed the girl's hands tightly, not allowing her to hit him anymore. And although the heroine of the novel was indignant at how dare someone like him touch her with his dirty hands and demanded to let her go, the girl herself mentally begged not to let her go and was generally grateful that Kylo touched someone like her. Looking at the handsome man she had beaten, the girl lamented that not only had she slapped her favorite several times in the face, but she had also been rude to him. She couldn't believe that she was reborn in a short story. It must be a dream. It can only be a dream, the girl thought. And consciousness left her, leaving her body limp in the hands of a surprised man. Oh, she lost consciousness, the man said disappointedly. There couldn't be a bigger scoundrel, he thought irritably, holding the girl. Princess Agnes Saint, she can be described in many ways the Emperor's crown jewel, the Queen of High Society, the most beautiful girl on the continent, and the last one, the ticking time bomb of the Imperial Palace. In reality, she is just a princess who, under the influence of alcohol, began to riot in celebration of the end of the war. It smells like alcohol. After sniffing, the man almost vomited. The smell was so disgusting. The knights, who were already looking for the princess, rushed to Sir Grey's aid. Leaving the girl with them, he ordered her to be quickly escorted to the palace, and he himself left. Pathetic, both this scoundrel and the imperial family who neglect her, but no matter what happens, he is not in the mood to say a word against them, and all this is unbearably sad. The morning in the palace was sunny and bright, but not everyone thought it was good. Princess Agnes recalled with shame the events of the previous night, and especially her emotions, which manifested themselves as if 3 people existed in her. At the same time, one was delighted that she touched Kylo, the second tried to kill himself by falling out of the window, and the third was thrashing around between the two, trying to calm them down. She was sure that it was a dream, but everything turned out to be real, especially as evidenced by her swollen palms and shrunken voice. The girl could not believe that she hit her favorite as soon as she was reborn in this world, and then also lost consciousness. At a pedestrian crossing, a girl lay sprawled in a pool of her own blood. People nearby tried to help her and call an ambulance, but it was all in vain. She died. It would have been a shame to die on the way home from the cafe after celebrating her favorite character's birthday, but the true reason for her death was more unfair. The goddess came down to her because she needed to say something. She is really very sorry, but the time for the girl to die has not yet come. It seems that there was a glitch in the system that collects souls. The girl had a reasonable question, is she really a goddess? And she laughed and answered that she was. But since she is a real goddess, then let her return her back because she killed her by mistake. But the deity responded with regret that her body had already rotted, and she could not do this. If the girl knew that she would die so stupidly and suddenly, she would not have put off reading fan fiction and would have used all those Kylo products that she ordered. In return, I will take responsibility. After all, it's my fault, the goddess said. And the girl raised her head in interest. She asked what the girl thought about a new life, whether it was a fictional world or a real one, whether there was a place where she would like to be reborn. The girl listened with bated breath to what the goddess was offering her. A picture instantly formed in her head. And she didn't have to think long. She immediately beamed with joy and asked to immediately introduce her to her favorite. And here she is, though she didn't meet Kylo at all the way she wanted, but started with slaps in the face. And then she remembered the satisfied face of the goddess who fulfilled her wish. but she still had to express her desires more specifically. Looking at herself in the mirror, the princess realized with regret that there was a more serious problem. Silver hair and violet eyes and an entire appearance that can be compared to that of a cat. This is a nightmare of all the possible characters. She was reborn as the main villain, Agnes Saint. The novella Infinity Splash is the story of Raymond Spencer fighting demons. All over social networks, it is called the Great Geek Union because it unites many fans of various genres: steampunk, classic fantasy, and modern fantasy. And in the novella, Agnes Saint is a devoted fan who pursues the main character, Raymond. Not just a stalker, but an obsessive and literally unyielding fan who doesn't give him life. But if it ended there, she would just be loyal and not be the center of the plot to some extent. With the exception of Lord Spencer, no one has done almost anything, taking advantage of his reputation and draining military funds. "How are you different from parasites?" the intoxicated princess asked those around her. She simply spat out such statements in front of the knights who returned from the Great War. Naturally, all the nobles who heard this were horrified by such arrogance and straightforwardness of the princess of the empire. But that's not all. She went to the Black Knights very drunk and caused a commotion there. "You are causing Sir Spencer nothing but trouble, real scum!" shouted the deranged girl. Then he appeared to stop Agnes and tried to calm her down. At first, the princess seemed to even listen, and turning around, she saw that it was Kylo Grey, who with all possible calm was trying to reason with the girl. A former street mercenary and commander of the Black Knights, another hero of this world and the eternal rival of Raymond Spencer. The views of the princess and the commander of the Black Knights crossed, and the girl aggressively asked what he told her to do. Kylo hated Raymond due to his inferiority complex, so whenever he met him, he hurled curses and insults at him. In this world, Agnes Saint is Kylo Grey's personal enemy, also because of Raymond. Thanks to this, Agnes and Kyle became the top two villains of this world. She is an arrogant bitch. He is a hot-tempered knight commander. These two hate each other to infinity. And now she couldn't understand why everything turned out this way, because she is Kylo's most devoted fan, why she became Princess Agnes. The girl mentally cursed this damn goddess. It was a failure from the very beginning. 2 days after the rebirth, life seemed to have returned to normal, and the girl felt like a real princess. Fortunately, after that incident, she began to have full control of her body. The maids helped the princess make her morning toilet and get ready, while at the same time worrying that the mistress had a headache. At first glance, everything turned out well, but the so-called goddess said that this was her first rebirth, and gradually the heroine's memories would return to her. And just like she said, her mind is now full of vivid memories of Agnes Saint's life. Although they are filled with such useless things as the princess calling Kylo arrogant, annoying, and vulgar, but this does not mean that she will give up. Therefore, Agnes turned directly to one of the maids, which even made her flinch in surprise. "It seems that yesterday I caused a commotion during the banquet where Kylo Grey might be now," she asked the girl. From now on, she is going to do everything to get closer to Kylo. But for some reason, the maid shook like a leaf, and in an intermittent voice asked what the mistress was going to do. "Yes, he made a mistake by grabbing your hand, madam, but you shouldn't deprive him of his hand for that," the girl shouted excitedly, closing her eyes. Who does she take her for? Agnes was a little offended that the maid misunderstood her, and she explained that she was just going to meet him, and nothing more. She can finally have a real first meeting with Kylo, but why is everyone making such a fuss? He was just trying to stop her from getting drunk. This is because Kylo is one of the Black Knights and is even their commander. There are 4 greatest orders of chivalry in the Empire, all great in their own way. The elite among the elites are the White Knights. They have both outstanding skills and status. The status of Blue Knights is not particularly high, but they are good because they are considered outstanding swordsmen. The Order of the Red Knights consists entirely of magnificent magicians. But the Black Knights are a bunch of troublemakers, in other words, bandits. Unpredictable bullies with exceptional skills, known as attack dogs, they stand in the vanguard and attack indiscriminately. A very bad reputation, but one that suits them. They are known for incidents of robberies, attacks, threats, and willful behavior. So the girl thought on the way to Kylo. Due to the reputation of the Order of Black Knights, its commander, Kylo, has always been an outcast and a loner. Coincidentally, this image resonated with her own loneliness during her school years. And that's how she fell in love with Kylo. Therefore, she tried with all her might to popularize her beloved, but he was such an unpleasant hero that all her efforts went to waste. And then, on the day the first part of the story ended, an incident occurred that changed a lot. The great Emperor Alexander Saint was unhappy with the current situation. They had won the war, however. Demons began to attack in civilian areas. Immediately after the Great War against demons, rifts began to appear in civilian areas. And when this question was addressed to the high priest, only then did the temple reveal the whole truth. To deal with the problem, you need to eliminate the source of the faults, and it is located on the top of a snowy mountain known as the edge of the world. There are only a few people in the world capable of doing this. The two strongest men in the empire, Raymond Spencer, with exceptional intelligence and strength, and Kylo Grey, with experience and fighting strength, an excellent tactician and strategist. This means that one of them had to sacrifice himself, and the one who put forward his candidacy for the place of the main character was none other than Kylo. Reading this plot twist for the first time, she was horrified. Why did he do this? The only reason Kylo, who despised Raymond so much, came forward was because of realization. Upon returning to the capital after the Great War of All Orders, only the name of the commander of the White Knights, Raymond, was heard in the air. The crowd of people looked at Spencer in awe, while he seemed not to even pay attention to them. He was called the only hero of the Empire, the hope of the future of the Empire. And Kylo realized that the hero whom the people love so much should not die. And no matter how hard he fights, he will never be able to get past Raymond and become a hero in the eyes of these people. That's how Kylo left a letter with the only phrase, "A hero must not die," and went to the source of the rift. Having once put his life on the line for the sake of peace in the Empire, he did it again, and only after death did he become a hero. This was the first time that the demon was overrated, and this was the end of Kylo's role in the novel, as the author of the original story showed Kylo's appearance on all social networks. And Kylo Grey's biggest fan in the real world went crazy over how handsome he was, just like other fans. This is how Kylo instantly became a popular character, and a themed cafe was even opened in honor of his birthday. But what's the point if he's dead, and besides, she died, returning from the same cafe on her birthday? In any case, from now on, everything will change. And Agnes resolutely grabbed the door handle. Kylo's future will change, and she, for her part, will try in every possible way for this. "Wait for me, Kylo. I will cover your path in life with flowers." The girl entered the room with such thoughts. The door to the room opened like a shining portal to a better world. But what she saw there made her stop in surprise and open her mouth wide. Kylo Grey, tied by his hands, stood on his knees, surrounded by white knights as executioners. And even in such a humiliated state, he was divinely beautiful. But what the hell is that? And when the princess asked in a stuttering voice what kind of situation this was, one of the knights cheerfully reported that Mr. Chamberlain had ordered preparations for the princess's visit. And he proudly added that they detained the commander so that he could not escape or hide. "Release Sir Grey immediately!" the girl screamed with all her strength, and the knights immediately hastened to carry out her order. When Commander Grey's hands were untied, the princess tried to quickly escort the white knights who were interfering with her out of the room. Finally, the door slammed behind them. But Agnes thought bitterly that she just wanted to make things right, so why was everything going against her? "Cut it off!" Kylo's voice sounded behind him, and the princess turned around in surprise. Remaining on his knees, Kylo Grey said that he would accept punishment for his insolence in daring to touch the princess. Cut. The man's gaze was slightly distant, but he was very serious. Agnes did not understand how she could even cut off something so precious, and quietly said that she had no intention of doing so. "In that case, if not my hand, should I offer my neck?" Kylo continued, and the girl became even more horrified. Seeing that the princess was not interested in this either, the commander of the Black Knights asked if she would be satisfied if he took off his knightly uniform. At this point, Agnes was greatly surprised at how she would take off her knight's uniform. Her imagination immediately pictured Kylo right in front of her, taking off his shirt and exposing his beautiful torso. "You can take it right off," the girl asked in a lustful voice, seeing only naked Kylo in front of her. Kneeling in front of the princess, the man clearly did not understand why she was looking at him so strangely and asking him so strangely. Agnes could not get rid of her unexpected, but such pleasant visions, and kept asking whether he would definitely film everything, putting the commander more and more into a stupor. Finally, it dawned on him that she had misunderstood, and Kylo explained that he meant to leave the order. from which Agnes became embarrassed and blushed, embarrassed by her reaction. Now she will be considered not only a troublemaker, but also a pervert. And she suggested just forgetting about what happened yesterday, greatly surprising the man, who thought that she was just joking. Agnes wants to tell him a lot, but right now she is too embarrassed by her thoughts. And in such a situation, it is better to leave, and she hurried to grab the door handle. The girl who slapped him in the face yesterday shows favor today. He will definitely think that she is crazy. Besides, Kylo is a gentle kitten who was now looking at her with incomprehension. As she left the room, she thought that it was important to take her time and she would approach him slowly. She was pleased with her plan and a mysterious smile lit up her face. So she will practice perfect acting for a while, and step by step she will become closer to him. When the princess left the room, the commander of the Black Knights barely rose from the floor, stretching his stiff knees and rubbing his hands, which were numb from the ropes. He wondered why the princess had come. He was sure that she wanted to kick him out of the order. In Kylo's imagination, the princess was definitely not going to stop at one wrist, but she didn't do anything with it. The man studied only one question: what was she up to this time? And yet he did not expect such a reaction to words spoken without hidden meaning. Who would have thought that the princess also had a naive side, but he himself really said something wrong. The man took the documents to get to work, but his thoughts wandered somewhere far away. Before my eyes was the image of the princess, blushing from her own embarrassing thoughts. Kylo felt like he was playing a joke on her, which wasn't a bad feeling. A few days after meeting Kylo, Agnes locked herself in the palace under the pretext of illness. She was thinking about how she could get closer to Kylo after she figured out the plot of the novel. After the incident with a rude statement at the ball, her reputation fell to the lowest level. The princess herself insulted those who fought and put their lives on the line for the sake of the Empire, and it could not be otherwise. No matter how she tries to get closer to Kylo under such circumstances, her reputation will negatively affect him. Is there really no suitable excuse, besides the very incident that she is afraid of will happen in the near future? While Agnes was thinking about all this, there was a knock on the door and said that His Majesty the Emperor was calling her, and someone else knocked on your door and said that you are the best YouTube viewer, and the best romantic adventures await you. Don't forget to support me with a like and a comment, or better yet, subscribe. I love you. The girl sighed heavily. It looked like the end would be the same as in the novel. Having told the maid to tell her that she would be there soon, Agnes herself sadly thought that they were going to drive her out of the palace. The Emperor's palace was huge and shone with its endless grandeur. The Saint Imperial family, which rules over this empire, has developed a magical weapon, the only one of its kind that allows you to fight against demons. She brought peace to this continent and at the same time has enormous power. And Emperor Alexander Saint is the most powerful man in the empire. And now Agnes appeared right in front of him, greeting His Majesty with respect. The Emperor's eyes were the same color as his daughter's, and the man stared at her for a long time. His beloved daughter. How difficult and hurtful it is for her now, the Emperor mentally lamented, like a very caring father. But out loud, he only strictly stated that she had come. He himself understands that he cannot cover his child forever, but he cannot do anything. When Alexander looks at her, who in every way reminds him of his deceased wife, his heart melts. She completely stopped obeying him even when he scolded her, which confused him. Agnes, who observed her father's entire thought process, in turn thought that it must be difficult for him too. Therefore, for the sake of Agnes, whose reputation broke the gates to hell, the Emperor came up with one way. As she knows, she is increasingly being talked about in social circles, and he has no choice but to send her outside the capital until her reputation is restored. Now the expulsion of Princess Agnes from the capital begins. A big event that happened to her because she will not be able to see Kylo. This should never happen, so Agnes mustered up the courage to talk. "I don't want this," the girl said in a voice that does not tolerate objections. First, she will insist on her own. "What can we do? He is the most caring dad in secular society. Let's see how he forcibly drives away his beloved daughter, who is like 2 peas in a pod like his wife." To which the Emperor said that if she did not listen, then he would have to make a different decision, and asked why she was not happy with this option. Agnes replied that she did not want to leave the capital under any circumstances, and then the Emperor offered another option, but Agnes agreed to anything cleaning the stables, stripping her of jewelry and dresses, moving to the maid's room, serving in the temple. Whatever it is, she agrees to do anything to stay by Kylo's side. "You will be appointed as a magician to the Black Knightly Order," the Emperor announced in a tone that brooked no objections. Princess Agnes asked in surprise what the Emperor said, and then she realized with delight what the Emperor had said and what it meant for her. Understanding his daughter's confusion in his own way, the Emperor explained that he meant the Sami Order of Black Knights. But he was surprised to hear Agnes's answer that she agreed and would go right now. Most members of the imperial family, including Agnes, inherit enormous magical powers. Therefore, it was always in the order of things for them to join the White Knightly Order, as did the Crown Prince and Agnes's older brother Damian. Of course, Agnes never went on missions simply because it was burdensome for her. Initially, she was a member of the Order of the White Knights, but now she is sent to Kylo, the best development of events. Looking at such a happy daughter, the Emperor did not understand anything, and his face changed greatly. "I'll call a doctor. There's something wrong with my daughter," was all the man could say quietly. He was so shocked. The girl at that time was literally glowing with happiness. She could not believe that she had an excuse to see her favorite every day. By evening, news of Princess Agnes's punishment had spread throughout the palace and even beyond. Some people thought that His Majesty had gone too far this time. It had never happened that a member of the imperial family, of the Order of the Black Knights, someone would justify the young princess, even despite her complex character. Others, on the contrary, given Her Highness's immoral behavior, considered His Majesty's decision acceptable. It was like her retribution for all the problems created not only for the nobles, but also for His Highness, the Crown Prince. This news was the most discussed at the next noble ball, especially since the princess was not here, since she was temporarily prohibited from appearing at balls. Of course, the men were not as chatty as the ladies, and some of them believed that now they should not say whatever they wanted. One of them was a member of the Order of White Knights, Sirius Melville, who sincerely condemned the desire of people to discuss others. His interlocutor, a member of the Order of White Knights, Hugo Rodion, on the contrary. The nobles are right. In addition, they have been discussing others for several days. Sirius couldn't listen to it anymore. He believed that they had no respect for the lady at all. Looking after his retreating partner, Hugo is concerned about the girl. Sirius pretends to be a gentleman. In fact, he is just a crazy pervert. At that moment, the deputy commander of the White Knights, Diana Rennox, approached him and asked where Sirius was because he had just been here. A fragile girl, a member of the Order of White Knights, Hazel Devon, who was also the #1 candidate for the title of the main character of the novel, a boundless surge, came up with her. Hugo decided to explain that Sirius, who is known to be crazy about women, left, saying that he did not want to hear criticism from Princess Agnes. Diana, who is a childhood friend of Crown Prince Damian, even understood him to some extent. Agnes is Damian's only sister. No matter how fair the remarks were, she would never gossip about her friend's family. "Wow," was heard from the sidelines of those talking, and Hugo immediately came closer because he recognized this female voice. Saint Liliana, another member of the White Order, admired the fact that heroes from the White Order were gathered here. This sweet-looking girl is the #2 candidate for the title of the main character of the novel. When she asked what interesting things they discussed, Hugo happily replied that they were talking about Princess Agnes. Liliana did not expect that His Highness would make such a decision regarding his beloved daughter. Saint Liliana was a commoner, but one morning she received a divine revelation and became a saint. Glances focused on a girl who had neither power nor status never boded well. Disdain and ridicule from arrogant nobles constantly accompanied her, as well as open flirtation from gentlemen. However, after the complete cure of several possessed people, her life changed dramatically. People began to revere and admire her in a way that had never happened before. She experienced a completely opposite attitude towards herself, from hatred to adoration. And after that, Liliana gradually began to desire more and more adoration, more power. Although the girl smiled at the man, her gaze was cold and appraising. Hugo Rodion, heir to the ducal family, looked at the saint with adoration and embarrassment. But he was not the only one who looked at the beautiful girl, the innocent saint, that way. Hugo has a good reputation in the order and a fairly high social status. But still, he is no match for her. The girl's sweet smile made Hugo's heart ready to jump out of his chest, because he is an ardent fan of the saint. Trying to continue the conversation, the embarrassed man said that in the end, the Emperor's decision was good. Even the commander felt calmer, and they would no longer find fault with the saint in vain. "What about me?" the girl asked in surprise, not understanding what she was talking about. And she modestly lowered her eyes, saying that it didn't matter to her, even though Princess Agnes disapproved of her. But this was quite normal. She used to be a commoner. On the contrary, she is extremely grateful to the princess for making her unhappy, the girl thought mentally, because everyone felt sorry for her. Men are so simple, but what can she do about it? She is not going to date any of them. Still, Liliana continued, Lady Devon should be more happy than she is, which made her very surprised. There are only 2 men in this empire that Liliana considered suitable for her. Crown Prince Demian Saint and the man who now approached the Talking Knights. "Sir Spencer, you have come," the saint remarked enthusiastically, whose eyes shone at the sight of the man. "The commander of the Order of White Knights, Raymond Spencer, is truly an eligible bachelor and was the main character of the novel." Liliana immediately informed the commander that Lady Devon would now feel safe because of the princess, which surprised the commander. Looking at Hazel's face, which expressed everything she thought about the saint, she said playfully that she probably shouldn't mention it. Liliana apologized that she was not yet quite accustomed to the noble style of speech, and Hugo hastened to reassure the girl because she had not said anything bad, and in general, honesty is the dignity of a saint. Diana, who witnessed this conversation, only sighed sadly, realizing that the saint was so openly entangling a person and this fool did not even notice it. Meanwhile, Agnes, who is at the center of the commotion, knows nothing about it and calmly drinks tea with the maid. Agnes's maid, Daisy Rodion, was shocked that His Majesty sent the princess to the Black Knights. She was worried that Kylo Grey, this wayward man, would torment her. Agnes wasn't worried about it. Kylo definitely hated her and would probably take the opportunity to annoy her. But for some reason, it doesn't seem bad to her. Although in a bad tone, he will be forced to communicate closely with her. The maid noticed that the princess was blushing and worriedly assumed that she was ill, and Agnes had to fight off the maid, who wanted to call the doctor, inform His Majesty, and in every possible way protect the princess from the Black Knights. She is glad that this is the only maid who is not afraid of her, but sometimes she can be a burden, and tried to reassure the girl that the Black Knights will not do anything to her. Daisy calmed down a little, taking into account the princess's arguments, and reported that it seemed that everything was so. Citing the fact that she had a headache, Agnes told the maid to go, but the girl's thoughts were on something completely different. Daisy, like all the inhabitants of the Empire, is still intoxicated by the joy of victory in the war with demons, not knowing that this calm will not last long. However, she, Princess Agnes Saint, knows where and when the demons will appear again. In 6 months, she will save the people in the eastern region and give all the credit to Sir Grey's foresight, and then he will become a hero. This is the ideal plan. While Agnes was indulging in plans and dreams, Daisy, leaving the room, ran into a man at the door and fearfully formally greeted him. Agnes, who heard this, was a little alarmed because the elder brother came without warning. "As always, an unceremonious greeting, Agnes," Crown Prince Demian Saint said dryly. A little earlier, the Emperor called his son for a walk and said that Agnes was somehow strange. The doctor says everything is fine with her, but she was not stubborn when he forbade her to attend balls, and she calmly accepted the transfer to the Order of Black Knights. "Do you think something might have happened to her?" the prince asked, thinking that Agnes had always been out of her mind. The Emperor was very nervous. He believed that his daughter had been bewitched by a strange magic book, which had recently become popular in secular society, and Demian tried to calm his father down. "I want to ask you, Demian, to personally go to her and assess her condition." The ruler turned to his son. "He is her only brother," the Emperor looked pleadingly, and the prince had no choice but to promise to come to her. And so Demian fulfilled his promise to his father by visiting his sister. While Agnes was wondering why he didn't warn him that he was coming, the man assessed the situation in the room. It didn't look like she had a strange book. Noticing the maid who stood frozen in the doorway, the prince assumed that she was a young lady from the family of Duke Rodion. And when the girl confirmed this, he asked her to leave them, as he would like to talk with his sister. The girl instantly understood everything and hurried to leave the room. The brother and sister were left alone, and the girl tensed up, waiting for what the crown prince would say. "Agnes," said Damian in a gloomy voice, and his whole appearance did not bode well. "How much longer is she going to bother His Majesty? If she continues to behave frivolously, she will not be able to find a good groom, even though she is a princess." Agnes silently listened to her brother's reprimand without saying a word, but it was clear that his words hurt the girl. The prince demanded that his sister no longer stain the honor of the imperial family. Her father would not stop loving and pampering her, but you should not expect the same from him. From now on, as a mage of the Order of the Black Knights, she will have to approach missions with all seriousness. Having said this, Demian demanded an answer from the silent girl. He expected that a stream of reproaches would immediately break out about why he was pointing her out and everything like that. So he closed his eyes. "Okay," the girl answered, and all his expectations were shattered, making the prince surprised. All the surprise was written on his face, and the girl noticed this, mentally surprised at such a reaction. "I hope you won't forget about this promise," Demian could only answer, embarrassed. And he hurried to leave his sister's room, quickly closing the door behind him. She is glad that now she has a family, which she did not have in her previous life, but the relationship between her brother and sister leaves much to be desired.